born in Belton, South Carolina, and that's where I went to school at BHP, graduated from BHP, ran the first touchdown at Belton.
I was going to get to that. Let me back up before we get to your first touchdown because I want to talk to you about that.
Okay.
What was it like growing up in Belton when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I enjoyed life, okay? And but now I couldn't understand why we were separated, black and white, because I had people, they've always told me that we had white kin people, and so I had black and white, and I just felt like that I was the one, when I was born, seemed like I was the one to try and bring people together because I was kin on both sides. And my parents always told us to love everybody. You know, no matter how they treat you, we're supposed to love. But there are times that when I was growing up, I didn't care whether you were black or white. If you treated me wrong, then I try and get you back, you know. But I grew out of all that as a saved person. But even coming up, that's the way I felt all my life. I felt like that if I should do you right and show my love toward you. But if somebody mistreated somebody, then I didn't like that person for them mistreating them. You know, whoever it was. Didn't matter, color, it doesn't matter. It was just the person themselves, the way they be acting. So I used to even be a protector of people that was the underdog. You know, I would always reach out. I felt like God wanted me to help the person out if they needed help. And that's the way it was. I got in fights like that, and but whoever was the wrong one, I would act toward the wrong one to stop doing it that way. And that's sometimes I've gotten into things. But growing up in Belton, I used to wonder. I used to walk by the white school and wonder why would they be stopping off there. And here I'm walking past there, and so I didn't understand that, you know, when I was a kid. But that's the way I grew up. But I still grew up knowing my place that I had to be in. See?
And so when you got to high school, though, the high schools came together, right?
The high school came together, and that was the first time that I had ever drunk out of fountain down here in the South with other whites. Because see, when we used to walk and come through town, there's different bathrooms. You got the colored, and you had the white, you know, and so you couldn't drink out the same fountain. Or when I caught the bus to go to Detroit, we had to sit in the back, and you had to sit in a different place. And then when you got up in the Detroit area in Ohio, then you could sit anywhere. You know.
Did you live up there?
I didn't live up there. I had aunts and I had grandparents. I had my grandmother lived in Ohio, so I knew the difference how it was there. And even when I was a teenager in school, when I went to Cleveland with my grandmother, her daughter-in-law had children before she married my uncle, and he got married to a white girl back during that time. And so I knew that it was happening, and I knew how things was going. But down here, I knew how to stay in my place. I knew if I messed and started talking to a white girl, that'd be way out of way. I loved everybody. It didn't matter who they were. I was friends, but I never got where I was gonna get close with one, because I didn't want to be hung upside a tree because of my love, you know, and it was just the custom I had to be with. And so here, even during that time, I went before the principal because some of the girls was calling me, and so they wind up after running that touchdown. They called me to the office because they were saying that I was looking at this white girl or something, and I was just being friendly. I've been friendly to the boys, the girls, and whoever, because that's the way I believe. I raised up like that, not trying to make any passes because I knew that was out of place. I had a girlfriend down at BHP, but she was not at BHP. She had already graduated. And so all this here, they called me to the office. I thought they was calling me about football or something, but they called me because the coach came and got me. And then they told me that even up north, they don't be where they socialize at night. And I knew the principal wasn't telling the truth because I was up there in the north and I saw that. And he was like, we called him cousin, but it was my aunt's boy. And they got married, and they were telling me they don't even be out. So it's for you the best to stay in your area. Well, I knew to stay in my place, but and not get involved with things like that. But they were coming at me, people, because I had blacks coming at me too. That was just my lifestyle that people liked me. And so, but I would always, not even a lot of the blacks, I didn't mess with them either. But anyway, all this here, I just sat there and listened to them, and they said, were you trying to flirt with someone? I said, no, that's not me. Well, another white girl told them that I was flirting with her, but the other girl told them no. The one that they thought that I might have been flirting, they said, she told them no. But this other girl, I think she probably didn't like me, so she's trying to stir that up. And but anyway, that was the only time that I had a little problem at the school. But all other time, I was treated well. The people, I got along with the football team. I got along. Matter of fact, the football team, the BHP, so it was Belton and Honey Path rivals. They said that I was the one that helped bring them together, because by running that touchdown, Belton didn't run it or Honey Path didn't run it, and so but here me from Gear Gant ran it, and it settled the situation. So they got to liking one another better. So the school became kind of better, the football team anyway, because of me. And so I didn't know that though until years later that they mentioned that. So I usually go to we had our 50th anniversary back in, that's in 17. And so I usually try and fellowship. And even at the place where we had it at, I got to be vice president. I got to be president of the museum. And I even got it cheaper for us to have it there. And that's where they was wanting to have it, and we had it there. So that's the way I do. I'm just a person that I want to help out and do. I've been that way all my life, and I still happy to be doing it. I knew it's God's will. I always felt like I would fight for my country, and I did that. I went in the Marines and fought. I got shot twice, but I thought all this, I was doing it for my country. This is my country here. No matter how I was treated in certain ways, this here, I'm glad to be born in this country to do things. I believe that we have the best country, even though we're falling off in a lot of different ways and things that I disagree with, but I preach against the wrongdoing, but I still love this country, and I believe in that. Yeah.
And I want to get back to that in a minute about your service. But so you went to Gear Gant first, and then you went to...
Exactly.
So what year, what grading were you in?
What year? That first year of BHP, that's when I went, 1966.
What year were you in school? Because you'd already gone to Gear Gant.
Yeah. See, Gear Gant, I went all the way to the 11th, through the 11th. The 12th grade, the last year, and that's the first year of the school starting in 66, 67. So that was we were the first graduates of the school, and the first football team in 1966. So I had played with Gear Gant, and my coach Creighton, he hated when he heard that I was going to BHP, but I was hoping as many of it came and go, because it was volunteer during that time, and it had air conditioning, I heard. At my school, it didn't have air conditioning. I had a problem breathing, and when it was hot, it really bothered me. And I might be thinking about the heat and the breathing versus what I should be doing in my work. So when they said they were going to be air conditioned and we were coming together, I wanted to be together so the people would know who I am, So I was happy about being there.
So you had a good experience at high school, and then you graduated. Is that when you went into service? Or
I went into service about a year later, and went Marines, and I went to Paris Island, and I got to be the outstanding man in the Marine Corps in my company, in my platoon, and then I went on to I got PFC stripes out of boot camp and won the dress blues, and then we went to got prepared to go to Vietnam, and went to Vietnam, and that's where I got shot in 1969, February. Matter of fact, it'll be 50 years the 23rd of this month. That's when I got shot. We got ambushed. We was on patrol, and we told that the VA was in the North Vietnamese Army was in the area, but we walking along, and my friend, he and I made corporal the same time, and he was leading the squad. I was only helping him. The squad leader was on R&R, so he gave it to Cole, who had been there longer than me. I had just joined a squad not long, and Cole switched with me, and Cole got killed, and had a lot of men in my squad got killed, but I was the one that made it out of there. I had two other guys come and help me, and we was out in the field and open field, and the first helicopter came, and it got started getting too much fire. It had to take off, and we left us out there in the field. And I heard later on that it got shot down. It went down. But the next one came in. It was night. It was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning then, and came in. One guy had a light where he could put down where they could see, and two other guys that stayed out there with me, they the one had me on the stretcher, and they helped me. And those two guys I've met, and we see each other now. Isn't that a blessing? We see each other when we go to Marine Corps Vietnam veterans. We meet every year. So those two guys, and then the guy that put down the light, they still living, But I've had many other ones that passed on even naturally. But we had two guys in our squad got buried, and I don't know if they was alive or what, when they got buried. So I went through a whole lot in Vietnam, but I was doing it all for America, I believe in America now, and I fight and do whatever I can do. I don't regret going to Vietnam for my country. I believe in the flag. I believe in the national anthem. I believe that we're supposed to do that. We don't need to separate ourselves. All this here is coming together now. Whatever, if the national anthem started out, Scott Keys or whoever it might be that messed up and was racist, the national anthem is not racist. I don't care who started something. It could be somebody got the bad habit, but if it's a good thing, let us use what it is. If somebody tell the truth, let us stay with the truth, and let us agree with somebody if they're telling the truth. I don't care how bad the person is. If they tell the truth, then let's listen to the truth. But if somebody, I don't care how good you might think, and you favor the person, and they're telling you wrong stuff, don't believe in the wrong stuff. You need to believe the truth.
So you got home from Vietnam.
Yeah.
Then what did you do next?
Well, when I came home from Vietnam, I was engaged, and the girl came to see me down in Charleston. I was down there in the Naval Hospital, and when I got shot, I went to Japan, and then I came to Charleston, and my girlfriend came to see me. She was saying she had to see me before she know that she was gonna still marry me or not. And so after seeing me, she said, "Yeah, we can still get married." Well, I thought the best thing to do is some things came up, and when I got out of service, I left her here, and I went to Detroit, and so that's where I found my wife. She went there to teach school, and so I dropped the other girl down here and got married to her. So it'd be 49 years tomorrow. Yeah, we'd be married 49 years tomorrow.
What was it like living in Detroit?
In Detroit I still got along with people. I still dealt with people. At first, I wanted to be a policeman, but I didn't have enough time when I first started wanting to be a policeman. I believed in what was doing, what was right, but they said if I had a volunteer, if I had left and got in service, from there, you got to be there a year as a citizen. And so they lost me on that. But after I had got married, and see, I met my wife December the 12th of '69. Same year I got shot, and then I wouldn't have met her if I hadn't got shot. But I met her, and then we got married the 14th of Valentine's Day of '70. And so, but when they come back at me, they wanted to send me to the academy and everything, the police department. But my wife, she didn't want me to go, and that stopped it. So I was glad later on that I did not go to that, because a lot of policemen still was getting killed, and different things was going on. So I became a minister, and that really made me out of the picture of wanting to be a policeman. So
Had your faith always been a real important part of your life?
always been part of my life. Always been part of my life. I was raised up in church, and I remember crying when I was a kid, real small, when the preacher was preaching. So my parents both was religious, and my mother and father both was ministers. And so they taught us the right way to live. And my father, he backslid for a while, and he got out of the ministry, backsliding and different things. But I was the one that helped my father to come back to be with God, and I believe he was living for the Lord when he died. So I preached my mother's funeral, and I preached my father's funeral too. My mother requested for me to preach her funeral. My father didn't. I guess he was just saying whatever, but I preached his too. And I had some relatives said, you really preached your mother's funeral. And then when they heard me preach my father's funeral, they said, you preached your mother's funeral, but you even did better with your father's. I said, oh, okay, but that's the way I believe. I believe in preaching the right word and let God be the one to speak through me. And I thought I was going to break down one time, but the Lord picked me up and spoke through me, and it saved me from breaking down at my mother's funeral.
So you entered the ministry. When did you move back here?
I moved back here. So I entered the ministry when I was in Detroit. I lived there 13 years with my wife and I, but I moved back here in '82 to work at the post office in Greenville. So we moved back here to Belton, and then when I got the job at the post office, I first lost the first job at the post office because LSM, and then they had to let me go. They was trying to keep me because I was a good worker, but Charlotte, the people up there said, no, you got to let them go. And so they hated it, but they had to let me go. And I got a job at the employment office here in Anderson. And I worked out there, found friends and did things, and people liked me there. And they wanted to keep me when the post office was calling me back. They were trying to tell me to stay, but I was going to make a lot more money at the post office. So I decided to leave and go back to the post office. So that's where I retired there. I was a pastor, but I also worked at the post office.
Now, what churches have you been at since?
Now, I pastored in Gethsemane in Greenville for a year. Now, I was assistant pastor where I'm at now, New Broadmount Baptist Church. I was assistant there for 2 years and taught Bible class. And once a month, I would preach God's word, where the pastor there called me up. I was helping out at another church, and he called me and wanted me to help him out until he got right. He was in the hospital when he called me, and he had a brain stroke. And so then we hoped that he was going to make it back. I prayed and hoped that he did. And he did come back, and he stayed and let me preach every Sunday until he got able to preach. And then when he got able to take over, he still wanted me to preach once a month. So that's what I did. I preached once a month, but I taught Bible class every Wednesday night. And then I went to, I told him that God was calling me to pastor somewhere else. And I said, I can't preach here anymore. I'm stopping. This is my last day. And so before my next time around, I was preaching in Greenville. And I pastored there for a year. And they all came and visited me when they didn't have fifth Sundays at this church where I'm at now. and they didn't give it to him. The pastor wanted it, but they never. They went to the unions. They went together and said, and so, but they all came to me up there in Greenville. And when the pastor resigned, then they asked, could I come back? And so I prayed about it, and a month later I told them I'd come back. So I didn't have to go preach. They already knew how I preached, and I went back, and that's where I've been for the last 32 years. September was 32 years. Mm-hmm.
What are you proudest of that you've done in your life?
My proudest thing is getting married to the right woman, and being in Vietnam to help out there. I felt bad when I got shot that I can't help them anymore, you know. And then I'm proud to have went to BHP. I'm proud that the Lord has blessed me to live a Christian life, and I'm proud to have all my children I got. I was the sole surviving son of the Palmer family. Didn't have no other Palmers. And I still didn't fight it or anything. I went to Vietnam, and I believed that God was going to bring me back. And when I first got shot, I'm laying on the ground, and then I get shot again. And I said, Lord, now I'm supposed to be a preacher. So now I thought I was supposed to be a preacher. Now I'm getting ready to get killed. And I said, show me which way to go. And I crawled back to the corpsman. The corpsman helped tie my leg up and everything, and that's where I'm just so proud of living for the Lord more than anything, and to try and help others. Uh, he married my cousin, and so that makes me cousin with him. And I'm happy to be a cousin of Rusty. Rusty is a nice person. His wife Kay is a nice person, and we love them to death.